Glamour.
Grit. Glamour.
Grit. Glamour. Grit.
Okay, so normally I feel like we have a lot of fun on here. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but I do want to talk about something I feel is very important as summer approaches, and it is a good reminder. June is National CPR Month, and I know you have fun vacations planned, pool days to enjoy, and memories to be made. But please, brush up on your CPR knowledge. To make this easy, Texas Health has a website with a very fun video with a bossy coach that breaks down the CPR process and reminds us that hand-only CPR is simple to learn and easy to do. It might be the first line of care you can provide someone, even a child, during what could be a very scary situation. No one ever thinks it could happen to them or their family until it does. That's why Texas Health is asking all of North Texans and everyone who listens to be a braver lifesaver. Check out the videos today at braverlifesaver.com. Welcome back to the Glamour and Grit. I am your better host, Sainty Nelson.
Oh my gosh. You're already starting with better host? Okay.
I mean, just saying. I hope I'm a fan favorite. This man who we have today.
Wait. What's today, first of all?
Oh my God. Today is Monday, which is
Celebrity Monday.
Let's go. But this man, y'all, I am so obsessed with this man. We have something very major in common, him and I. So we might as well be besties because the producers of his show and creators are the same producers as my show, Gabby's Dollhouse. So I feel like we're going to be bonded from the beginning.
And I'm like kind of geeking out because our kids, all the parents, listeners, and viewers for this episode are going to lose their minds because this is our kids' favorite show. This was my brother's favorite show back in the day. This show has been around for so long. It has become the most iconic children's television show in history. Try to change my mind. It is. I'm sorry. And we have the lead of it on here with us today. We could not be more thrilled for this. And I am guilty for watching this show, even when my kids leave the room, because of how captivating and entertaining this man is. And his musical abilities are through the roof. I've put in a lot of hours, even without the kids in the room. I'm not gonna lie. It happens. Should we bring him in?
Let's bring him in.
All right, Mr. Josh Dela Cruz. Come on in, brother. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for such kind words. Thank you so much.
Hi, Dom.
Hello.
You are so welcome.
Wait, I need to embarrass you really quick because I know all the moms are going nuts.
Oh,
because
yes, I forgot to bring this up.
Daddy-O is a
thirst trap, which we discovered. There's a picture of Josh pre-Blue's Clues.
Boy.
I've never seen this picture. Wink, wink.
Oh, I have, and he looks incredible. I'm going to talk to him about his workout regimen. But it's a fitness picture of him kind of flexing, and it's, I mean, the moms and across the world found it, surfaced it, trending on Twitter, thirst trap for Josh. And brother, that was impressive.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'm so glad that surfaced in your career.
For all you...
No,
for all the
ahead.
Listeners, a thirst trap is like a stud muffin.
Oh, it's a millennial mom term for sure.
It's a millennial mom term for all them studs. So Josh was a stud.
Oh my gosh. You know what's so funny? I remember like when the internet was emerging, they were like, once it's online forever. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not putting up anything that's crazy. And I remember I was taking headshots at the time. And it was before the client had shown up. And so I was just like testing lighting, and we just did it in our living room in New York. And I was feeling myself. I was like, you know what? I've been working hard. And I took the picture. I was like, oh, that's fantastic. And that picture has followed me everywhere. One of my dear best friends for my birthday, when I was at Aladdin, in New York, we used to celebrate everyone's birthday before the show. We'd sing and there would be a cake and everything. And this man put that picture on a cake and I had no idea.
I would love a slice of that tricep. I mean, come
Oh
on.
my gosh, I need to get back to form for sure. I mean, I've been it's been I think that picture's over 10 years old now, which is crazy to me.
Wow.
Um,
Well, I know all of our viewers and listeners as we speak are Googling Josh Dela Cruz thirst trap so they can see this photo. You should.
Yeah,
You
not like
should.
I've ever seen the picture, but you don't look an age older as you did in
oh,
that picture.
thank you so much.
And speaking of Broadway and all these things, I would love to just quickly, for the viewers and listeners, read through a little bit of your bio.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this while you're here, which a lot.
I think this is so awkward and embarrassing for you. So I'm so sorry. So there's nothing worse as an actor as somebody reading your stuff and you're like, yep.
See,
yeah,
for me, I'm
yeah.
like, he needs to hear how amazing he is all over again.
Thank you.
That's my objective
Yeah.
here. So, everybody, Joshua De La Cruz is currently the new host of Nickelodeon's groundbreaking show Blues Clues and You. Most recently, Joshua starred in Paramount Plus's Blues Big City Adventure alongside the two previous hosts of Blues Clues, Steve Burns and your friend Donovan Patton.
Donovan,
That's right.
Who
he's
played-
on Gabby's Dollhouse.
That's right.
The New York Times called Joshua spectacular and the real highlight of the film. He is a powerhouse triple threat who made his Broadway debut in Disney's Aladdin as an understudy and member of the ensemble, but later took over the role for Aladdin himself, which is such a cool thing, my friend. Other notable theater credits include Here Lies Love under the direction of Alex Timbers at the prestigious Public Theater and Merrily We Roll Along at New York City Center's Encores under the direction of James Lapine. So he's truly a triple threat, and it makes me want to just go start taking classes again because
Oh my gosh.
I need to get up on everything. I mean, truly.
It's okay. We first need to ask you,
Mhm.
how did this all begin? What was this audition process like for Blues Clues? Because will have to tell you, I went in for it. Didn't get a call back.
No.
Oh my
Didn't-
gosh, you would have been
But
wonderful.
I read with her. I mean, she was like, what am I supposed to do here? And I know over 3,000 people audition for this thing.
Yes. So it is. I mean, I don't think people realize, like, back in the day, there used to be like cattle calls. There was like a cattle call
Yeah.
to find the new host of Blues Clues and You because the show was so iconic.
Yeah.
So what was that process like for you?
I remember I was sitting in my in my seat at Aladdin, and it was during the show, and like the way they had us positioned, we had dressing rooms, but they were in a tower, like, and you had to take an elevator, and it was a whole thing. So we all stayed underneath the stage with all of our costumes, and we're all just sitting and going about our day, whether it be on our phones, reading a book, talking, and between numbers. And I get this email from my agent at the time saying, "Hey, or if you're interested, submit. There's an audition at this time," because they were still doing in-person auditions at the time. Fast forward to now, everything's just self-tape. And I was like, oh, Blues Clues. My sister loved that show. My little sister, like, we used to sit in my aunt's bedroom watching it, because at the time that was the only room at her house that had cable. And whenever we'd sleep over, we'd watch that show in the morning and then, continue on. And I'd watch like the older stuff, like Hey Arnold. Not that that's older. But she
I feel
was
like we're the same. We've got to be
Yes.
the same age because these are all the shows that.
yeah, these are all the shows that kind of like formed who I am as a human being. And so knowing that and how influential that was to my little sister, and then I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I'm not going to say no. I had no intentions of being in children's television. Frankly, I had no interest in it. But I wasn't going to say no to an audition. I think I had just signed with this agent too, so I wasn't about to be like, nah, it's not really my flavor. I'll pass.
I'm good.
I'm good. I went in and I had a good time. I remember it was the most pleasant audition, and you all know, these things are terrible, especially in New York City. You're in just like this weird building. You're in a hallway waiting with so many different people, soaking in everyone's anxiety. And it's terrible. And then you go into this room, and it's just this giant room with a couple of people behind the desk, and it's the worst. But I show up to this audition at Nickelodeon in Times Square, I go through security. I go up to
1515 Broadway.
yeah,
that building?
1515 Broadway, 100%.
Many of auditions in that building.
Boots, built for the Western lifestyle by cowboys and cowgirls who live it every day. Their exceptional quality and unmatched attention to detail come from the heart of years of experience. You'll hear people say they don't build them like they used to. Well, the Rios family of brands does. With an unwavering commitment to doing the right things the right way, the company's dedication to family, quality craftsmanship, and the preservation of a history worth sharing is as strong as ever. Find your perfect pair today at any of their retail partners. For a full list of where to shop or to learn more about the Rios family of brands, visit riosfamilyofbrands.com. Step into the proud heritage of the Rios family of brands, a testament to the heart and soul of the American West.
It's incredible because you walk in and I'm like looking around. This is the first time I'd ever been in this building before. I'm like, oh my gosh, people audition like this. There's a giant sign that says Nickelodeon. Then you're escorted to this lovely waiting area with a view of New York City and their TVs playing Nickelodeon cartoons. And you're sitting on this really comfy, colorful couch. And you're like, oh, this is lovely. So, then I get called in, and the person is just wonderful, and I meet the casting director, Danielle Pretzfelder, who's also wonderful. And I left the room being like, "Oh, that was great. Okay, yeah." And I left feeling completely fine with it. I let it go. You know, it's such a rare thing for me. I don't know how it is for you that like I don't replay an audition in my mind, being like, "Oh, man, I should have did that," or like, no, it was lovely.
That's the struggle, I feel like, with most auditions. Yeah, we're just playing it over and over and over and realizing like there's nothing we can do. We have to just let it go.
The greatest gift, yeah.
When you walked out of that room though, did you have the feeling of, you know, because sometimes we get out of an audition and I'm like,
I booked it.
I nailed that. Like
I'm a star.
I would be shocked if I don't hear back from this in some capacity. Like, did you have that confidence coming out?
You know what's so funny? The auditions the greatest gift that I could ever receive after an audition is to be like, great, you know, that where I don't replay it, where I don't think I freaking nailed it. I got it. And it's just like, no, I feel really, really wonderful about it. And that's how I felt. Then fast forward a month, I didn't hear back. And I was just like, I honestly forgot about it. And I was sitting back in the bunker with my castmates at Aladdin, and then I get this email from my agent saying, "Hey, I guess this is still happening. You have a call back." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So then I go back to 1515. It's wonderful. Like there are more people there. I go in, and that's the first time that it was like this. It felt more like you were auditioning for like a show. It was lit. Everybody, all the producers and everybody, was like a giant line of like 20 people sitting behind tables, and then like all eyes on you. And I was like, oh, this is more different than what I'm typically used to.
And in the waiting room before you went in for this callback, was there a mix of men and female?
Yeah.
Was it like
everybody
kind of looked the same, or was it just like a hodgepodge?
It was wonderful. It was like such a like diverse mix of people and different types of people as well. There wasn't any like it wasn't like, hey, these are like all the like the boyish guys or these are all like the bigger guys.
All the character actors
and all the character actors, exactly. So it was a lovely mix, and which was kind of nice because you weren't comparing yourself to all like the hunks. It's not like, damn, all right, I gotta do some push-ups or something. You're like, no, you're just like, okay,
whip out my thirst trap picture.
That's right. Have you seen this picture? So I went in, and I think I sang like, because we had to sing a song and do the sides, and I sang I Just Haven't Met You Yet by Michael Bublé, and like I was okay. I love Michael Bublé, but I was like, I don't know what to sing for this thing. So I sang that. Then I got a call saying, "You did great. They want you to change your song for the next callback."
That was actually going to be one of our questions, was like, what do you choose to sing? And did they give you song from the show, or was it like, hey, choose a pop song of your choice and sing it?
That was exactly it. Like they said, prepare the sides. I think there were two sides, which ended up being in like the first couple of episodes, scenes from the first couple of episodes, and they're like, bring a pop song, because they didn't quite know what they wanted the show to sound like yet. They knew that they wanted it to be contemporary and up tempo, and so yeah, I was racking my brain, especially at that time. I was like, I love golden age musicals, like like contemporary musical theater was something that I was starting to dip my toe and try to understand. Um, and so I was like, what am I going to sing for this next one? And I went through everything until I realized, like, oh, what do you listen to all the time? And at the time, one of my favorite songs of all time was Sir Duke by Stevie Wonder. And I was like, oh, I love singing that. Like, that's great. Um, and so I ended up singing that for my screen test, and they gave me notes and everything. And then after I left that screen test, think about like replaying things in your mind. I remember not feeling, I couldn't let it go. I was like, oh man, I was like, I think I did all right. And I started to think, why is this bothering me so much? Like I love like acting and doing this type of thing, but this isn't the kind of work that I saw for myself or that I even wanted. And so I was thinking back, and I was at Aladdin, and a lot of my friends who I opened the show with or had moved on, and I still loved my job. It's a freaking dream job in New York with amazing, wonderful people. And I realized like, oh, I think I'm looking for something else. I think I'm ready for another stage. I don't know what that is yet. And I went through everything. I kind of went like, oh, do I want to go back to school for photojournalism? Like that, I went through everything, and then I realized, oh shoot, I think you want this job, dude.
Now it
you
means
know,
something.
now it means something. Like before, when we were going through the auditions, and it's not like, hey, I'm further now. I really want this job. It was like one of those things where, as I was working on the audition with my castmates, because we're just, we'd help each other with lines during the show. I remember this one time it got around, oh, Josh is auditioning for Blues Clues. And somebody started singing the male song, and everybody in the bunker just started singing the male song. And we were all laughing, and we're like, wow, there's such a huge, there's so many people from different ages and different generations here that are also attached to the show. And looking back, my Steve was Mr. Rogers, and I found that profoundly important to me, growing up, to be listened to and to be heard, and to just to take time and be quiet and to be calm and to be inquisitive. And then they were like, they loved you. They were putting you on hold. Like I think another month went by, and it was still on my mind. And I was like, oh man, I think I really, really want this job. And at this, I remember getting the date for the final screen test, and the week, I think it was the Sunday. It was on Sunday that I got that email, and I was already going to see the Mr. Rogers documentary before the matinee. And my wife was away working on a Norwegian cruise line at the time. So like I had the morning to myself, watch that. And it was like fairly empty movie theater. And then as the movie ended, everybody just kind of sniffled. Myself included, were just like just a collective acknowledgement of, oh, this person was so important to me. Somebody that doesn't get a lot of credit, really, as far as media is concerned. Children's media and children's television is so important, especially because it's so accessible. And I said, "Oh, damn, I want this job."
Yeah.
This has my heart.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that you said it's so true. It allows kids to respond. And I feel like so much of the time is we're talking at kids and not allowing them to talking to kids. And I feel like it's Mr. Rogers and Blues Clues. They actually ask you questions and allow. I heard you in an interview say like the 4-beat moment, and it seems like such a long time, but it's so true. You have 4 beats before you answer yourself, and that gets the children that are really fast. They get so worked up about it. Like, did you not hear me, Josh? I'm
Yeah.
talking to you. But it allows my brother is a slower processor in the sense it allows those kids that are thinkers, really like an Eric.
That's me. I'm a
he's a
thinker.
thinker
Oh,
to
man.
have time to think and really answer you. And I think it's so amazing because, like Mr. Rogers and you and Steve, you allowed kids to have a voice and be able to actually listen and take time. And I think that's so important. What Tracy and Angela and Jennifer,
Yeah.
all of our creators of our shows, have really changed with children's shows and brought that back, is allowing kids to have a voice again.
Fort Worth is fun for the whole family. That's right. The top-ranked Fort Worth Zoo provides all-day excitement with over 500 different species in almost a dozen habitats, including the big cat habitat, Elephant Springs, African savanna, and Texas wild. The Fort Worth Botanical Garden is full of natural masterpieces, curated into beautiful spaces like the Rose Garden, Japanese Garden, and Rainforest Conservatory. Hike, bike, or skate around 100-plus miles of Trinity trails, which take you throughout the city to various hotspots for dining and playing. Plan your stay and find out about unexpected events across the city at fortworth.com.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing, and I so envy you, Eric, and your brother, Sainty, just because whenever I meet somebody that thinks before they speak, I'm like, oh man, I wish I could really do more of that, instead of just try to answer the question. I worked with somebody recently, and I asked him a question about, hey, what are your plans after, after the show, and then after you graduate college? And like, he took a beat, and he was just like, I think, and he answered, and I thought, what a wonderful thing that maybe might not have been nurtured if it were any other show, or if Blue's Clues hadn't changed the game with the 4-beat pause. Because you're so right. There are kids that'll answer right away, and then they'll get super, super excited, and that just kind of builds the excitement of the show. But then there are also kids at home that just need a moment to process, collect their words, and then speak, not because of anything other than, just really taking ownership of what they're about to say, and it's just different. And so Angela and Tracy, I mean, I remember talking with Steve about the show, and
Like
and
the Steve?
yeah, the Steve,
OG Steve?
oh geez, Steve, yeah. And he was like, Mr. Rogers talked to kids, and then Blue's Clues waited for the answer. It was one of those things where we can't really no, in our show, we can't move forward until the kid gives us the answer. And I think that's where we took everything that Mr. Rogers did and then built on top of that. And that's the genius of, Angela and Tracy and all the people in childhood research that that work on our show and that work on shows like this. I mean, Gabby's Dollhouse, everything changed after that. I remember Dora the Explorer was a direct result of Blue's Clues. Elmo's World was a direct result of Blue's Clues. Like, everybody was trying to get that thing that they discovered. And to go back to the audition process, I don't think I would have been excited or wanted the job if it were any other show, if that makes sense. I think I would be like,
Did they have to walk you through that process during your testing and everything you were going through for the audition process, in terms of like, hey, when we're talking to camera, we go through a 4-beat process before we let the kids respond, and then you'll say your next line? Like, did they kind of structure that, or did you have to come in with all of that
like where Blue is and where the mailbox is? And
yeah, because really it's a big monologue, right? You're talking,
it's terrifying.
by yourself for lengths of time to imaginary things and people. How did you structure that in your audition, or did they have to kind of walk you through that?
I'm trying to think back, and I think it was fairly free. There were entrances and exits if you wanted to exit. And then there were general eye lines of where things were. They're like, like, look over here, and then like, look over here. It was all very general. Like, they weren't going to take the time to put an eye line down for Blue or Tickety Talk or anything like that. And So I remember being quite stressed about it, and then they I realized like, oh no, like we know this, especially if you went to school for theater or did any kind of theater with zero budget. It's just like you and like you pray to God you get a real cup and you don't have to do this. Like,
It's
yeah,
so true.
you know, you're just like, if I have a water bottle, that's great. That's something real that I can touch. And then everything else is just kind of like, you know, it's a black box. And yeah, you have to adjust for the screen, but once you get that under your belt, it's not that hard. The hardest thing is really talking to camera, especially talking into the lens, because you kind of have to wait and you have to listen. It's something that I strive to be as Josh Dela Cruz is to talk to somebody and then like be 110% present without having to worry about like, oh shoot, I forgot to do that thing. Just to be with somebody. And so I tried to do that. Like whenever I'm talking to somebody, whenever I talk to the kid in the lens, I try to picture someone else. And I remember Steve told me that's kind of what he does. It's like he pictures somebody in the lens. And so I at the time I didn't have any. I One of my favorite kids, two of my favorite kids were like my best friend from Aladdin. He had these two kids and they babysat our dog all the time. And so like I just talked to them in the lens. And you find different people like my nephews, like my niece, like the different people that you talk to and you wait for an answer. And then once I got the job, that's when the boot camp started of like, okay, this is going to feel terrible, but you have to wait 4 beats. And they explained why. And I tried it. And I remember thinking, oh, wow, that's a long time. They're like, yeah, it does feel like a long time because it is a long time.
No,
but
I tried it
it
this
worked.
morning. It is so, I mean, you really don't realize how long 4 beats are,
Oh, yeah.
especially in our world where we're like fast paced and zing and zack. I mean, 4 beats seems like a decade.
Oh, yeah.
But to a child, though, it's so not. What was that like? As you know, with theater, you're around people 24/7, whether you like it or not, people everywhere. You have an audience, you are never alone. And it's magic. Then going from that, and I don't think people realize you film just you in a
Yeah.
blank box. Was that such a mind craziness going from all the time having people with you, then to just like, as Celine Dion would say, all by yourself?
100%. 100%. It was so weird, especially because it was all eyes on me. You know, I definitely felt like the first few episodes, if not the entire first season, I felt like I was white knuckling through that entire thing, trying to make things happen. And it wasn't until I had the opportunity, like a couple of days into our first week, Steve and Joe had to film separate from me because Steve was on had green elements and we were filming on green screen because of my blue shirt, and so they had to do it split screen separately. And I got to see them work together, and I'm like, oh man, they're playing. I know how to do that. Just play. And then like with the play, you can get into, you're just more relaxed to listen and make things happen. And you know, like again, in theater, you form such a bond eventually, hopefully, with these people that you know you're silly and you're comfortable being silly and you're comfortable making mistakes, and you know you usually get a good laugh when you make a mistake, and you get teased about it in just the most wonderful way. And in the first season, like we were building that comfortability, but it definitely felt, oh gosh, yeah, that first season, I remember thinking, wow, this is so hard. But then I realized that there were people there, that there were people in the room that were wonderful people. My hair and makeup supervisor, Carrie Vaughn, like she was my rock on set, and my on-set assistant, Ashley Kranz, like it. At first, it does look like a monologue, but my scene partner is Ashley, and so everything that all of my reactions and everything come from her. And while she's off screen giving me those lines, like it's, you know, we're playing as though she's on set with me on screen. And so like instrumental. If there's no way the show could happen if it were not for the work that Ashley was doing. And definitely she's every voice before the voice actor gets on set. So pretty much,
Wow.
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Now, when you're filming, do they have like puppets? Do they have
No.
tennis ball? Like, what is with, or is it just you have to? Do they give you eyeliner? Like, what is there?
Yeah.
So you know.
Yeah. So it's usually a piece of tape on the floor. A piece of tape on the floor. I think
I
at
was going to
first,
ask, is it just
yeah.
a bunch of like marks on the floor that you have to hit at different points throughout filming?
Yes. So we'll have like different tees that we would where I would be like, oh, I need to. My first position's here. Seconds is over there. My eye line changes as I go. The first and second season, we were really, really like super, super specific with eye lines. And then moving forward, we all just got so good at it that we just kind of like, oh, this is blue, right? It's like, yep, okay. And then you just kind of remember to go to the same spot every single time. And like the thing that drove me crazy was they're like, don't be too specific, just generalize. And then like as the show got really, really good, and they're like, yeah, what can we push? What can we push? They're like, okay, let's start tracking things and be like, this is crazy. Are you sure this is right? This is right. Like you want me to point at it and then just like like it was a wonderful challenge, but we were doing well at that point, so that was great. But
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, I have a question about,
Yes.
So you're playing Josh,
Yeah.
seemingly, I mean, yourself in a way.
Yeah.
Steve was Steve, Donovan was Joe, but was there a point that you sat down with Network and they had a discussion of like, hey, we'd love you to play Josh. We'd love you to kind of be yourself in a way? Or was that a collaborative thing? Or was that always the plan?
You know what's so funny? Yeah, they when I went in for the audition, I thought they were calling the character Nick, and then I realized like, no, it's just because it's shorthand for Nickelodeon. Like Nick, and it's kind of like gender neutral. You could be like Nick could be
Nikki.
yeah, exactly. And so I remember them going through when I got the job. I remember them going through a bunch of different names. One was Ben, and then my agents came back to me and they were like, they want to know if you would be comfortable using your name. And I said, oh, I'm really going to have to think about that. And talk to Steve and talk to Donovan. And then I came to the decision, like it's going to be so much of me, of who I am. And the way that I look at it, if we're talking about like the MCU multiverse, it's like it's Josh in just a different world.
Totally.
I bring so much to that character that is me, and it is me. It's my name. I've been known as Josh my entire life, even though like technically I'm Joshua Craig. Like nobody calls me Joshua Craig, and so very few people that don't know me call me Joshua. And so like Josh is kind of how I've lived my life, and so getting to play that and made it so much easier. I didn't have to put anything on, it's a piece of me. And as an actor, everything that you do is a piece of you. But this one was, I would be hard pressed for anybody to make the argument that, like you're not being yourself. It's a piece of me.
Now, on the contrary, what is that like? So you're out at a bar and having like beers with your buddies, and all of a sudden, like at least with my stuff, I am Pillowcat, but nobody knows Sainty in real life.
Yeah.
So is that hard for you? Like if you want to go have drinks with friends, do you feel like you always are? We're always, as we know, a representation of our company because we are represented by Nickelodeon, Netflix, Disney, like these children-based, we're on children's shows. But is it harder when it is your face representing an entire brand?
100%. I think it's, even as an actor, like there's some actors that well, no, as actors, we all kind of have like an image. And even as people, there are people that we love and they love us because of who we are. And so whenever we act outside of who we are, that can disappoint them, and rightfully so. Like whenever I'm not being my best self with my loved ones, they're disappointed, and frankly, I'm disappointed too because we're human beings. Um, does it become more difficult, like when I'm at a bar and like, yes, I curse. I'm a human being, but um, so yeah, it can. But again, it's a piece of me. And while I don't have any kids, I imagine that as a parent, as like you have who you are as a parent, and then when you're by yourself with people that are your peers, you it's just a different side of you as well. Not a far departure,
Right.
but I'm definitely far from perfect. Um, and if anything, it's been lovely because having that responsibility, I do tend to kind of, I guess, have a temper and be, a little bit confrontational sometimes.
Of
As
course.
my wife says, like I'm an Aries, and so like I enjoy confrontation a little bit.
You like a little
And
spice.
I like a little spice,
I know
exactly.
someone else who does that too.
It must be a kid show thing.
Exactly. Um, but it's been wonderful because knowing that I've had to take a breath, and we could all take a breath. We could all just, it's probably a misunderstanding. And even if it isn't, is it worth the effort to ruin the moment that you're in? It's one of those things like, so I practice Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and I love it. I love the fact that I can get into a fight every morning and like leave and just be completely normal friends. Like you get to play wrestle. But the thing that has taught me was that the last thing I ever want to do is get into a fight. Like the dumbest thing could take you out and ruin your life or someone else's life just by like tripping on the concrete and then just hitting your head. You didn't even get into the actual fight. You just tripped. That's something
Totally.
that could happen and ruin lives. So that's the last thing that I ever want to do. And to take that into the real world. And I'm not saying like I get into a fight with everybody, but just to kind of have just a misread interaction. And instead of being sassy to somebody, you just take a breath and just like, you know, it's just, it's a misunderstanding, move on. They're not being their best and you're probably not being your best either. So like, just breathe through it and keep going. And the show has been a gift in that way, to encourage me to be more on my best behavior. And again, to be that person that I strive to be on the show. And I guess that is the key word. It's Josh on the show is who I strive to be, somebody that listens, somebody that is, that communicates how they feel. And that takes time to figure out how they feel, but also to be inquisitive about the other person in the room and to truly be 100% present. So the show has been a gift in that way. But I'm definitely far from perfect.
Oh my God, that gives me chills though. I
I
literally
know.
have goosebumps.
I know. It really, that is incredible how much that show has done, not just for your career and for yourself,
Mhm.
but for like your personal life. Like it's changed
Yeah.
so much within you, which is just insane and in such an amazing way. So oftentimes I try to do whatever I can to close the door when I leave set and to leave all
Mm,
that there. And because it's so separated from me. But being doing what you do and affecting children the way you affect them, I couldn't imagine having those feelings and what that would do to me, spiritually, mentally, and oh gosh, now I want to be on a kids show so I can better myself because I really think that's such an amazing gift that it's given you.
we kids television is so dang important and
Uh-huh.
so underappreciated because especially so like cable came around. I grew up with and I'm sure the same for you, like national TV. It was all free. Like I remember when, like companies used to the TV, pay for your TV, and you just watched the commercials. And now like we're watching Netflix, and like we pay for Netflix and also pay to watch these commercials, and then buy that stuff. but like it's wonderful that we just get to that I got to just watch TV, and cable TV has disrupted the industry and allowed for so many more stories to be told, like Blue's Clues and You. Um, but then, there was a paywall, and then there are things that are happening that you couldn't participate in. But now, because you can watch our show on YouTube, you can buy the shows on DVD. Like, there's so many ways to do it without having to subscribe to something. And it's so important because kids need good stuff to watch and participate in that isn't trying to sell you something. Um, and that is really just concerned about their emotional growth and their mental growth as well. And so the more quality children's television we can have, and the more that we can recognize that importance, because kids are our future, and everything that we do should be for the future of these kids to put them in the best position possible. And so if you guys come up with a children's television show, I think it would go over like gangbusters.
We would actually love that.
I mean,
and
that'd
Sadie
be
would
our
be
dream come true.
incredible in that.
What was it like, your life being Broadway? In New York City, it seems like it's a small, big town. Everybody knows each other, but truly going from just being Josh to being Josh from Blue's Clues, what was that like overnight? And it's not overnight, because we all know it drives us nuts as actors when someone's like, oh, overnight success. And you're like, after 55 years in the industry
right,
and
that's right.
135 auditions, yeah, overnight. But what was it really like, you're becoming, like, I'll never forget, it's like when you go somewhere random and somebody knows who you are. That happened to you overnight. What was that like?
And who's stopping you? Is it the parent or is it the child that recognizes you first most of the time? And they're the ones like, Josh.
It's mostly the parent. If anything, if the parent hasn't said something and the kid is just like staring at me, like say we're at a crosswalk and the kid's just staring at me, and I'll just like smile and then immediately think like, oh God, I hope I wasn't like creepy or anything, just because I'm like smiling at some random kid. But I'll just like acknowledge the kid and just be like, hi, and then keep going. And but it's mostly the parent. And they don't even have to be a parent. They could just like know the show. A lot of people in the Filipino community, which is so amazing. But for the most part, it's wonderful. I mean, it's like the kind of famous that I'm okay with. I didn't become an actor because I wanted to be like a celebrity or famous or anything. I just wanted to do the thing. Like fame has no interest for me, like whatsoever. Like this is my ideal kind of recognition. The best I think would probably be like Ron Howard. I feel like if Ron Howard's having dinner somewhere, people are like, it's Ron Howard. And then you just go on with your conversation.
Totally.
Wonderful.
Right.
Wonderful. So every interaction's been great, but it's so, it's always a surprise. I remember during the pandemic, I got recognized more during the pandemic, like in a short amount of time than anywhere else. Like I had a mask, I had my glasses, I had a baseball cap on. And then I'd just be like in the aisles, and like somebody would go like, "I'm so sorry. Are you Josh from Blue's Clues?" I'm like, "Yes, I am."
And a mask and a hat and glasses.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was always amusing. Whenever parents say, recognize who I am, and then their kid is with them, they're like, "Do you know who that is?" And I get two reactions: either super excited and shy, or like just straight up suspicion, just like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you?
It's like seeing your teacher
Blue?
out in the wild. Like, why are you really? I thought you're just in my living room. That's what I always tell people, even when they find out I'm Pillow Cat. They always want me to do the voice in front of their child. And that's what they look at. They do not understand, especially when it's not my face out there. I can't even imagine. I always tell parents, because they're like, oh, can I film you, saying a line for my child? And I'm always like, no. Give me your voice memo. I'll do it on the voice memo. Because they see my face and they're like,
wait a minute.
That's not Pillow Cat. Like, they just don't quite understand it. And it's true. It's like seeing your teacher out in the wild or seeing Santa not at the North Pole. You're like, what are they doing here in real life?
Now, were you married before you booked Blue's Clues, or did that all happen during kind of the run of the show?
I got married in 2016. So that was like like the end of 2016. So that was maybe, oh boy, like a year. We were like a year in to our marriage when I got the job. Um, and so when did I get it? Now I'm like, what are my dates? But I remember after the second season, or my wife and I had been together after the first season. Here we go. After the first season had wrapped, I did the math, and because my wife and I were actors, I was like, oh my gosh, we've been together, uh, and we've spent for the first 3 years of our marriage, we have spent exactly half of it apart. Um,
Wow.
Wow.
yeah,
See, that was going to
yeah,
be my question was if you got married before the show and definitely before the show's success and you had that marriage and then super, busy famous Josh comes mid-marriage or a couple years into it, how did that dynamic work? Because you're being thrown into a whole new scenario and now we're
yeah,
trying to juggle that. Was it challenging? Was it obviously she's an actress, so she knows at any moment either of you could be pulled away for jobs and
yeah,
could get blow up overnight. That's what can happen. But it
yeah.
happened so quickly. I'm imagining how did that work in y'all's marriage?
Thankfully, because we've been together since 2010 at this point, and we were used to like the game. We were used to the hustle of like, all right, like this sucks, but we'll see each other. It was all toward that goal. Um, and thankfully, there really wasn't. There really wasn't like a big. We were just filming the show,
Mhm.
and we filmed the show in 2018. We premiered in 2019 while we were filming the second season. And then when we wrapped, uh, January or February, it was January of 2020, we wrapped, and the show had
Wow.
only been out for 3 months. And then I had February, just kind of living my life. My wife was in Jersey Boys at the time, off Broadway, and so we were
Your
both
favorite
busy.
show of
My
all time.
favorite show of all
Oh
time.
shoot! Oh my
Do you
gosh!
know Midtown Men, which is the original Jersey Boys, sang at our wedding?
Oh my
That,
gosh, that's
that's how obsessed
amazing.
she is with Jersey
So,
Boys.
Josh, we don't need you on our podcast anymore. You want to bring your wife on in?
No,
No, I'm
100%,
totally kidding. I'm totally
100%,
kidding.
110%.
No, but obsessed. But yes, so sorry. Big fan of Jersey
No,
Boys.
no, 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 no. So she was in Jersey Boys, and like it sucked. Like really, it sucked because like I was spending half my year in Toronto, and she was in New York. And being on opposite schedules because I started working like essentially 8 to 5, and then she would work from like the evening just because of the show. Like it sucked. That was hard. That was a hard few years of our marriage. And then just because timing was terrible, to communicate and to just chill and just be present without having to worry about other things. And I remember being so lonely up in Toronto. Like I love Toronto so much. It's my favorite city I've ever lived. We love it so much that we decided to move here, and that's where we live now. But I
Oh
remember
wow.
being so like burnt out, just especially at the end of the season. Would be 22 episodes in. I was starting to have trouble like memorizing lines, um, and then I would get home so exhausted. And I remember the first season was especially rough because they wanted to do this interactive uh, game for Noggin, where it was essentially like those those videos where somebody's just like in waiting and standby mode, like they're in a video
Yes.
game. So
Yep.
we
Yes.
essentially did that. So imagine that we were doing Blues Clues, the show, but I literally could not go until the kid found the clue and tapped on it on the screen. And so we had to
Wow.
do like, and I had to go back to the same position. So it was like a video game where I'd be like, oh, look over there. And then wait in this like resting position. And I remember that was like the worst. I don't know if I would still be doing the show if we kept doing that. It turned out incredible. I think we got like we won an award for it or something. But they were like, no, it's too much work for so little payoff. And I was like, thank you, Lord.
Oh,
Thank you.
But I
It's a
remember
lot.
after, I was like, that's a lot. I remember sitting after that day and just being on my computer. It was still light out, and then I'd look up, and then it was dark, and I was like, oh shoot, I have to go to bed. I was just so burnt out. Um, and then and then after that, talking to Amanda on the phone when she got out of the show, it just wasn't great for like our relationship. Um, and then thankfully, you know, silver lining with the pandemic, like we both got a chance to take a beat and be with each other and to live with each other. We haven't lived together like that since we were in college. And that's kind of when, you know, we really started to find our way back. And yeah, I'm so glad that we had that time to just be together.
and
Because
that's
there's
the
no way that
tricky
I'd
part.
get through it. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
tricky part.
I
You
mean,
both
we
know.
we struggle with that all the time. It's like, you know, the highs are highs and then the lows can be low because it's like the separation and I'm away working and then I mean, I was filming all of 1883 when our son was being born and, you know,
Oh my
I'm like
goodness.
1 foot in, 1 foot out and it's trying to find that balance. And that's one of the things we talk about on the Glamour and Grit. It's like, you know, the glamour and life seems amazing and there's so many perks and it really is so incredible, but there really is the grit under all of that as well. And it's those times and, you know, leaning on our partners and just, you know, getting through it together and figuring out ways to make it work. I have a neighbor actually who was just over the other day and she sat me down. She's like, hey, I just have a couple questions. My husband just started having to travel a lot for work and he leaves for 3 weeks at a time.
And I'm here, like, I'm like, 3 weeks, honey, that's nothing.
Right.
Like, that's a vacation.
You want that time off. Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
3 weeks. Try 3 months, 6 months.
But all of
Yeah.
a sudden she felt like, you know, the separation and she's like, you know, what makes you happy when you're gone? If your wife sends you pictures or videos of what she's doing, like, how do you get through that? And it was really interesting. I was like, oh, I thought only entertainers had to go through this. But, you know, he's a businessman. He has to travel overseas for business. And, you know, now she's trying to figure out how she juggles that. And so, I don't know. I wanted to bring that up just because I know it's not all peaches and cream. And in relationships,
glad
we
you
have
did.
to struggle to figure that out. But I'm so glad you guys did. And what a silver lining with COVID. Are you guys
Yeah.
filming right now or do you have more coming up?
So we're done filming and like this, I'm in this weird stage of my life now where I'm like, okay, so what do I do now? What's the next thing that I'm going to work on? And it's been an adventure so far. And again, going back, I never knew that I wanted to do children's television. Like I want to pursue so many things. I'm still auditioning. You know, I'm really excited about theater and musical theater. I saw Little Shop of Horrors like a year ago, and I haven't stopped thinking about how wonderful it was. If you have a chance to go see the off Broadway production of Little Shop of Horrors, it's incredible.
It's
Oh,
unbelievable.
yes. And in fact, can I say who we have?
One of our guests coming up is about to star back on it again.
Oh,
If that's
okay, cool.
If that's
Cool.
a
I
little
don't
hit.
know them, but and
but we
also
need-
sidebar, you two would be wonderful in that show.
That would be so much fun.
But we need to introduce you to this person because actually you and your wife would be best friends with this couple. They're spectacular people just like you. I can already tell y'all's energy. And I do think there's something when you have been in the children universe, there's this certain kind of bonding. Like I remember getting into voiceover and everyone was like, you will never meet kinder people. And like I'll never forget. It's like, you'll be reading a voiceover and someone's like, I'm not doing this as good. You know who you need to call? This person. And I'm like, what other part of the industry does that? And I think there's something about children's shows because it's really not about us.
Yeah.
There's something so selfless about being a artist that represents children. It is about them and all about them. And like even now when I ask somebody, like Eric will be like, oh, do you know Gabby's Dollhouse? And they're like, yeah. It kind of does a dagger in me. I'm like, oh, they don't like it, or they're too old for it because it really is. It's so much a part of us, and they are your best critics. They will tell you if they love it, if they don't love it, who their favorite character is, what. So I feel like it is so. There's something bonding about people that have gone through the process of being on a children's show. And we see it with actors now that have grown up being a Disney kid or a Nickelodeon kid. It is a certain mentality. And I truly believe it's magic because it does teach you to be a brand all the time, which is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, all I can think about right now, I'm just manifesting you as Seymour in
I know.
Little Shop of Horrors, because that would be everything, and that's going to happen. Universe, please make that
Thank
happen.
you.
Thank you. When we
Thank
have
you.
you back for season 2, that's going to be the big announcement.
It'll be the thank you for manifesting that out to me. But no, it's pretty incredible. I love the people in children's television, especially the people that are like boots on the ground making it, because they're some of the funniest, most ridiculous people with just the most twisted sense of humor. But the thing that brings them all together is that you will never find anyone that cares more deeply about children and making sure that they become good people than these people. And everything is in service to that, whether you like the show or not. I remember when Bluey became a thing, it's like, oh, Blue Dog. I finally watched the show wanting to hate it. And I was like, this is great. This is so good. I can't hate on
brilliant.
it. I came into this ready to fight, and I was like, oh, it's so cute. It's wonderful. Just to have a family unit like that, and to that it be accessible not just for kids, but for adults as well. I can't tell you how many, and I don't know if this is how you feel, but so many of the parents that I talk to, they're like, oh man, Bluey's great. It's just like, it's just a nice vacation from kids content that may, at least to some people, feel like it's pandering to kids to try to get them like, hey, I'm treating you like a kid. Like, no, it's just like a family. And in this next stage, I'm like, okay, so I want to do all that stuff. I want to, I'm continuing to audition, but I also want to do kids content. Just because it's something that I love and I care deeply about. And, I think that there should be more choices, even if it's not the most popular thing in the world, but that it's there for somebody, that we're like the 4-beat pause where it's like, there's something for you. And if we can do that for kids and for parents, I don't think there's anything better than that as far as content is concerned.
I feel like we need to talk to Josh off camera and see if we can come up with something amazing.
Every time you speak, I really do. Like, I actually have the goosebumps right now because it is so, especially we have a 2 and a 4-year-old. It's so important and what they watch. I mean, shout out to the parents that don't let their kids watch TV. I always let them watch a ton because that's my industry. So I'm like, baby, get those views up. You keep watching that TV, honey. But I just do think it's so important, especially these kids that were in the pandemic. That was their friendships. That was their learning. And we had like Barney and Mr. Rogers. And those were such pivotal moments in my life that we're so lucky to have you. It's just so cool. You're everything that I wanted you to be. And I knew that you were, just because I feel like I know our creators and they are such about energy and who people are in real life, and even in animation, what they see on the screen, it has to come from within. Like you said, it's always a part of Josh. Pillowcat is always a part of Sainty. There is my
100%.
quirks and you see, as I bet you saw as the seasons go on, the more they get to know us personally, the more our little quirky things come into the character where you're like, oh gosh, I didn't realize that y'all know I do that. Or it's just so interesting what you find. But I'm so grateful that our kids got to have you and get to have you.
Yeah, thank you. Honestly, for what you did for them and for, television. And thank you so much for being here with us today. It was truly such an honor and such a privilege, and you're an incredible human. I can't wait to see what comes next for you.
And really quick, we always like to ask our guests before they leave, what is your glamour? It can be your glamour of the week, your glamour of life, and what has been your grit?
Oh my gosh. Okay, glamour. I'm really trying to take care of my skin.
Nice.
Brother.
I'm trying to take care of my skin, and thank God my wife has found she found a website like last year that kind of like broke down everything, all the ingredients, and like we're vegan as well, so having products that like we agree with as far as animal testing. And so there's a company called, and I wish I were sponsored because I love it so much. I think it's called Biossance. And so I have never been I hate schmutz. Like, especially like sitting in a makeup chair is like the worst for me. People just like touching my face and like, I'm like, this is terrible.
So
but
don't
like,
get on
fine.
a zombie show is what you're
Don't
putting
get
out there.
like, hey, listen, I'll if there's per diem, I'll be there.
Exactly.
But but I am enjoying this because it feels so light, and like, especially going out and putting sunscreen on. I found a really great sunscreen. Just kind of taking care of myself in that way has been really, really wonderful. And then as far as grit, oh gosh, grit. I'm just trying to like take a breath and show up and do things that I don't necessarily love. The one thing that I've rewired in my brain to be like, oh, this is really, really good for you. We just started doing cold plunges. And
Us too.
it's how are you feeling about it?
Oh, well, I just got him like the big barrel, which is so
Lovely.
funny because it costs like $1 gazillion and then it shows up as a
Yeah.
plastic barrel. And I'm like, oh my God, I literally could go to Home Depot.
But it's what it's doing for your body that's worth every
It
penny.
is so
That's right.
true.
That's right.
But
That's
it
right.
it shocks your, like, I just started doing, I feel like we got to go to dinner because I just started like mouth taping at nighttime. Have you heard about that?
Oh, what's that?
It supposedly gets you, like, you tape your mouth
She
shut.
looks like a serial killer when she
I
goes
know,
to bed. But
but you're supposed to, I feel like your wife and I would be best friends, but you tape your mouth shut and it's supposed to have you like better. I need my mouth shut more often than just at
no,
nighttime.
please explain it because I'm
But
curious.
it's supposed to like have you better sleep and you're supposed to be more rested because you use so much of your energy, like having open mouth and you're not breathing correctly while you're sleeping.
Interesting.
So they've done this whole study about, and I'm the type, anything that will like keep me younger without being put under or good for me, or I'm like, sign me up, baby. So I bet you've done the, it's not like mucus, it's like all the slug stuff that you put on your face, like the slug. I'll send everything.
Yes. I've seen that. Yeah.
It is
Amanda
like,
does that.
I am hooked on anything. Eric's always like, the potions that you try, it's unbelievable. Just because I don't know how old you are, but I'm 34. So it's like
It's working.
It's that teetering age where you're like, I'm not old. I'm definitely not young. So you're trying to figure out what looks great on your skin. But it's so true. It's so fun figuring out the grit.
Well,
of our skin.
I'm looking out for that. I'm gonna try that
Cold
lotion
plunge, yes,
you suggested.
Is the best.
Yeah, the cold plunge is
It's
incredible too.
cold plunge is wonderful, and like 34, like 30 hasn't been old since like they invented penicillin, and like my goal is to like always get older. Not that I can stop it, but I love getting older. I just don't ever want to feel in myself. I don't ever want to tell myself I'm old. Like I want to get older and experience the new things and experience all the things, maybe the new limitations that will happen. And like, how does that change me? I'm so excited for that, and to just be as mobile and as healthy as possible as long as I can without ever feeling like, I'm trying to turn back the clock, because I'll never be able to do that. But yeah, the gritty stuff, like trying to do more cardio that's hard, that like just uncomfortable stuff that I haven't done since high school, like, and I feel better. And I hope that everybody can experience some grit, but then, treat yourself with that glamour. If you're doing the cold plunge, get into the sauna.
Go. Maybe
Amen.
we'll get the
Amen.
thirst trap picture number 2.
Oh, that new thirst trap pick, please.
Yes.
Oh, listen,
won't
come
look at
May.
Let's go.
Let's go. Babe. Trending on TikTok now. Times have changed. Twitter's now
Oh, my
X,
God.
and we're going to get you on that
That's
TikTok,
right.
baby.
Oh man.
Oh, my God.
Josh, thank
That's
you,
right.
thank you so much for being here, brother. It was such a
Thank
a
you
pleasure.
for having me.
Oh, and where can everybody
That's an
find
honor.
you on the socials?
Yes. So check me out at It's Josh Dela Cruz on Instagram. Steve Burns, Donovan Patton, and I are hitting a bunch of different comic conventions this year. So there is a
Ooh.
chance that you could meet all three of us and take a picture with all three of us and just talk to us. This March 15th, 16th, and 17th, we're going to be in Richmond, Virginia at GalaxyCon, and not just us, but you can get the chance to meet Tracy Page Johnson, the voice of Blue, the co-creator of the show, and Angela Santamero, who is the other co-creator of our show. We're going to be there all together as a reunion. So if you're interested in meeting us in person and other amazing people, check me out at It's Josh Dela Cruz on Instagram.
I'm booking our flights to Virginia as we speak.
And
Josh, that's incredible.
Tell Tracy I love her too. I love them
I will.
so
I most definitely will.
much. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Josh. And you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well. It's been an honor.
Take
Bye,
care,
love.
brother. Thank you.
Bye.
Whew. I got the goosebumps like 12 times.
I'm so
during that
sad
interview.
Blues Clues is done, like he's done with the show.
I didn't know that either.
I had no idea.
That was like, I should have done a little bit more research on that too.
What an amazing human being, though. Like,
And Eric, I don't want to embarrass you, but what did you find out before we started recording?
I knew this because I watched 1,000 episodes
He
with
definitely did
my
know
younger
this.
brother Matt when it was Steve, and then I've watched so many with our kids. But she told me Blue was a girl, and I said, no, Magenta's the girl, Blue's the boy. And she pulled it up on Google, and she was right. That
Blue is a girl.
is a girl, but I know I knew that because I've truly watched this show so many times, but I forgot.
Sure. That felt so good. I can't wait to see you guys on Friday. We can talk some more. It'll be a little less PG, a little bit more PG-13. Maybe some R.
No, but I do want to channel my Josh in my day to day. He seemed like the sweetest soul I've ever, I think, spoken to.
Yeah,
ever.
I agree. We're so lucky. Well, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you on Friday.
Until next time.
Bye.
Glamour.
Grit. Glamour.
Grit.